What happens when a world-class nutritionist uses blood panels, cellular biology, and fact-based science to create and monitor healthy eating plans with supplements for her clients? Everyone wins. Welcome to Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy, an educational experience that gives you both the actionable and practical tools you can use every day to get your health, weight, and life back on track.
Thank you very much. I'm Haylie Pomroy, and I am here to break down some of the myths that we believe about blood sugar issues and rebuild the truth of how you can use food as a prescription to stabilize your blood sugar, to reverse prediabetes and even diabetic situations, and how we can actually heal the body and stop dealing instead of healing. You may have heard that blood sugar is bad and that we need to eliminate sugar as a whole from your diet. But without sugar, real sugar, the kind that comes from fruit and even vegetables, your body will not be able to generate energy. And that's not just energy so that you can do things, that's cellular energy so that you can build muscles, so that you can create an immune system, so that your entire body can be healthy and healthful. Without sugar, you will actually consume the sugar that we store in our body in either the muscle or in the liver, and those tissues will gradually waste away. You'll find yourself easily fatigued, all those individuals that do those low carbohydrate, low fruit diets. That's because we're starving our bodies of natural sugars. Individuals that do those for a long period of time can get depressed, and if we completely deprive our bodies from sugar, eventually we'll actually die. Energy is incredibly important for a successful and happy life. But again, I'm not just talking about, energy to get up in the morning and run your kids around or to pull off that next meeting. I'm talking about it on a cellular level. The energy that next time you create a new cell, it's actually a healthy cell. The energy that tells your body to send nutrients to the brain for memory and cognition. The energy that's required to break down cholesterol, to rebuild bone, to stabilize the blood sugar. That energy actually comes from the metabolism of sugar. You can have all the money and the possessions and the fame in the world, but if you don't have energy, metabolic energy, cellular energy, the energy to get up in the morning, to relax and contract your lungs to breathe, to remind your heart to beat, you can't enjoy any aspect of life. Yes, it's definitely true that refined sugars, what we call the white sugars, are bad for health. They weren't really born bad. They actually got bad by us putting them through a chemical process, a lot of times using chlorine and a lot of other very harsh chemicals, to extract all that was good about them in the first place. We have taken foods, fruits, and created fructose. We've taken corn and created corn syrup. We've taken cane sugar and created refined white sugar that is killing many, many Americans. We're all aware of that. But actually, healthy sugars, the sugars that we get from complex carbs, rices and wild rice, things like quinoa, things like oatmeal, those are so valuable for our body. And yet so many people aren't able to metabolize them, so we've made those the bad guys. We get natural sugars from fruit. I think you can believe that when I talk about mangoes or grapes or bananas. We can just taste the sugar and enjoy that process in our body. Sugar, again, stimulates energy, stimulates the blood flow to the brain. That's one of the reasons why we get so excited when we consume sugar, and also why we can see kids bouncing off the wall when they consume too much refined sugar. The refinement process of sugar allows it to get delivered into the bloodstream really, really rapidly and shuttled into the wrong places like fat cells, certain aspects of the brain, even into the certain smooth muscles of the heart. Many individuals metabolically are having a problem with those sugars, having a problem breaking down sugars that are not just refined, but also that come from the complex carbs like the grains, that come from fruits. And maybe you weren't aware of the fact, but there's also a lot of vegetables that have sugars. Beets have sugars. Anything that has a complex carb can be converted into a sugar. Carrots have sugars. Potatoes have sugars. Our body takes all of those foods and breaks them down and creates those healthy sugars, again, to create cellular energy. It's not that the body is getting too much sugar. It's that the body starts to have a problem if it can't metabolize sugar. Now, it's true, if we do a ton of those refined sugars over and over again, our body constantly creates a hormone called insulin. The insulin becomes resistant or fatigued, and therefore our body can't deal with those sugars. So those sugars, the refined sugars, can create a bad situation very, very fast. But for so many individuals, they have a hard time even processing the healthy sugars, the ones that come from the grains and the fruits and the vegetables. And when that's the case, our health really starts to decline. This is not caused by the fact that those foods, our body can't utilize those foods. That's the process. No one ever gained weight because they ate too much oatmeal or too many apples, or got diabetes because they ate one too many mangoes. Those foods can become a stress when the mechanism that allows the body to take sugar and convert it into cellular fuel goes off. Those dysfunctional metabolic pathways can happen in many different areas of the body. When the body can't control sugar, there is dysfunction in one or more, sometimes hundreds, of the different metabolic pathways that control sugar metabolism. So they aren't on a cellular level realizing the benefits of the natural sugars that they eat. And what we find, and many of you can probably relate to this, especially if you have metabolic syndrome, diabetes, prediabetes, you find that your body actually craves sugar. And there's a reason for this. That's because you're not realizing the benefits of actually consuming those natural sugars. Your body's always wanting those sugars, and you might find that you can't stop eating it. Or if you're tired or fatigued, you crave carbs, or you crave fruit, or fruit makes you feel better. But that doesn't create a problem if your metabolic pathways are balanced. If you're using a food prescription that actually helps the body to metabolize sugar and convert it into that incredible energy, you have a problem because your body can't metabolize sugar. And if that's your problem, don't be frustrated. Don't be angry. Don't feel like you don't have good willpower if by 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, all you can do is consume carbs. It's because your body's trying to tell you something. You crave sugar because you have a blood sugar issue. And you have a blood sugar issue because you're not metabolizing sugar. Kind of interesting, right? I'm definitely very disturbed by all of the artificial products that are out there being sold in the name of diabetic food right now. You know, you'll find them in the drugstore. They're right there next to the blood sugar testing strips. And there's nothing in them that could potentially make your body healthier. Nothing that could potentially make your body create balance in those metabolic pathways. We're selling foods to individuals that have blood sugar problems based on what they don't have. The big selling point is it doesn't have sugar. It's sugar-free. But it's actually substance that can help create a homeostasis. It's actually substance, nutrients, micronutrients that can create the healing of the metabolic pathways that can allow you to stabilize sugars. So those things contain actually hardly any real food ingredients. It's all devoid of nutrients. And remember, metabolic pathways are all nutrient dependent. Whether you do or don't metabolize sugar, whether it's in the form of a mango or an orange or oatmeal or M&Ms, whether you don't or do burn that sugar for energy or store it as fat or build it as muscle or smooth muscle of the heart or deliver it to feed the brain is completely determined on what nutrients are on board at the time. Let me say that again. What you do with sugar, when you consume sugar, is completely dependent on the nutrient value in your body, in the food that you put in it, and the nutrient reserves that you hold on a daily basis. So whether you have a good vitamin D level or storage, whether you have good muscle mass, whether you have fabulous bone density, determines on whether you take those M&Ms and convert it to fat or take those M&Ms and convert it to energy. It can determine whether you take that mango or that apple or that carrot and actually reap the health benefits of it. So when we're looking at for a prescription to stabilize the blood sugar, there's typically two things that we do. We use pharmaceuticals that help inhibit sugar production, that help inhibit sugar absorption, that allow the body to pass sugar more efficiently through the urine. A lot of the diabetic medications out there. We also use medications that are insulin-based, which help shuttle sugar up into the cell more efficiently so that it doesn't hang out in the bloodstream, because that's where it causes all the problems. When it hangs out in the bloodstream, it creates a stickiness in the blood, which can lead to poor circulation in the hands and the feet, in the eyes. That's why we see so many vision issues. It can definitely correlate with a lot of confusion, memory, cognition, depression issues. That's why we see a lot of individuals with metabolic or syndrome X having issues with anxiety, depression, uncontrolled perspiration. All the central nervous system regulators can definitely go off. When it hangs out in the bloodstream, we can have fatigue and weight gain. We can feel confused. We can actually have an increase in pain because the same hormone that regulates blood sugars is formulated from the same building blocks, the hormones that regulate our anti-inflammatory hormones. So what are we going to do? We have to create a prescription that actually helps to repair the metabolic pathways that are responsible for taking sugar in any form and converting it to energy. That takes sugar in any form and allows it to be stored in smooth muscle, allows it to help deliver nutrients to the brain, allows it to support the liver. Again, with the paradigm shift, natural sugars, food-based sugars, non-adulterated refined sugars can actually be and actually are a very important thing in your health if you can metabolize them. So we've got to work on the metabolic pathways that actually take sugar and convert it to fuel and convert it into energy that can actually allow it to be taken up into the cell. And we do this by using food. And in the fast metabolism food prescription, we're going to go through a specific food program that helps support the pancreas, which produces our own insulin, that helps support the proteolytic enzymes from the pancreas, that helps to break down the food to get those micronutrients to us. Because remember, a few minutes ago, I just told you that all those metabolic pathways that are going to provide us health are micronutrient dependent. And remember what I just told you, that no matter what you eat, whether it's healthy or not healthy, what you're going to do with that is completely dependent on your micronutrient playing field, what you have going on from a micronutrient perspective, because that determines which metabolic pathways are opened, closed, sped up, slowed down, or how your body adapts to that healthy or unhealthy food. It's why I always use the equation E plus M equals H. It's eating plus what you do metabolically that can evoke health. You can eat the best food in the world, you can eat the worst food in the world, but if you don't do what you need to do with it metabolically, that is going to be the end result of what happens in your health. Whether you're going to flourish or you're going to flounder, whether you're going to create disease or you're going to create an abundance of health. So unfortunately, because diabetes is an epidemic, it is also seems to be this big cash cow for manufacturers. There's even lotions out there that have a special label on them that says, for the diabetic. There's nothing special in that. They're just trying to find this huge population of people that have a very serious chronic disease and capitalize on that. Instead, we should be offering our diabetic patients, clients, friends, food that can actually allow the body to take sugars out of the bloodstream and convert it into energy. I always say that diabetes is like a leak in the roof. And just medicating and not feeding. Now remember, the National Institute of Diabetes has stated that diabetes is a disorder of the metabolism. So if we medicate and we don't heal the metabolism, maybe it's medication like an insulin or metformin, which can be life-saving. But if we don't also feed and nourish the body, it's like putting a bucket under a hole in the roof to support the leak. Maybe it's not even like a bucket. Maybe I'd call it like a sponge. The sponge might go in and soak up some of the water or soak up some of the blood sugar. It might help the body void it a little bit more quickly, but it doesn't have anything to do with the actual hole in the roof. It doesn't have anything to do with what's actually broken in the body. Again, when we're talking about blood sugars, it's the body's ability to take sugar and convert it to energy. It certainly isn't fixing anything, because if it fixed something, We'd be able to go on the medication for a short period of time, repair the problem, and restore health. So one of the things that I like to say is that when we look at blood sugar, we need to look at blood sugar before we've eaten. A lot of times when you go into your doctor's office, and this is what we work through in your health empowerment workbook. We're working through how to prepare for your visit. A lot of times they do a fasting blood sugar, which means when you haven't eaten, what are your levels of blood sugar in the body? And that's a lot of times what we used to determine for years if an individual was diabetic or not. Anything over 100, 110, consistently, you were considered a diabetic. Now we've added a new lab relatively in the last 5 or so years, they're using it more frequently, that's called the hemoglobin A1C. And this, we kind of say, gives us about a 90-day average of what your blood sugars are running. It actually lets us know how many times your body attempts to get sugar into the cell and isn't successful. Kind of like how many times you try to walk through the doorway and you bang your head against the door jamb. And we look at the hemoglobin A1C and gosh, they keep inching this number down, but anywhere above a 6, we really are concerned about an individual becoming diabetic. And anything above a 5.8, we consider an individual pre-diabetic. But when we're looking at this, we're looking at a snapshot. We're looking at how much blood sugar is pooling when you've fasted, what's happened all through the night. And we're looking at what's going on in the body at that moment in time. But to really repair the body's ability to use sugar and convert it into energy, we need to look at the blood sugar several times because it all means different things. So in my practice, when we're using a food prescription, I have for you the list of labs that I love to see you have run with your practitioner. I also have in your workbook, we're going to do the health wish list. Maybe it's your goal to reduce your insulin level or create stable levels through the day. Maybe you're new to metformin and your goal is to not have to be on that medication. But again, we're going to create and design that alliance with our doctor so that we're all on the same page. We're all eating for the same thing. We're all fighting for the same thing. So when I check blood sugars, and this is something that I recommend for my clients, is we do it 4 times during the day, actually, so that we can create the true prescription for health and we can really see what the body's doing metabolically. First, I always check the blood sugar right before bed. Ideally, I like it to be about 2 hours after eating. What I'm looking for is at the end of the day, as the body starts to go into rest and restoration mode, as the body starts to work on bone density and this more of the parasympathetic nervous system, and the body starts to alkalinize the pH a little bit, I like to see what the blood sugar's doing. Again, right before bed, ideally about 2 hours away from your last meal. Then I like to take the blood sugar first thing upon waking. And my goal is to really do it before you've gotten up and you've been very active. So usually within 10 to 15 minutes max of waking. And when we're doing this, we're seeing what the body did throughout the night. Throughout the night, we should be in a state of rest and restoration. We should be building bone density. Metabolically, our sleep is when we lose the majority of our weight. Metabolically, when we sleep, it's when we create. Our hair grows the most when we sleep. Our nails grow the most when we sleep. We produce more collagen and elastin when we sleep. We are supposed to be in build and rebuild mode. And in order to do all of that, it actually takes a lot of cellular energy. So what should happen metabolically in your blood sugars is the number when you went to bed should be higher than the number when you wake up in the morning. I'm going to say that again. The number when you go to bed at night, let's say you go to bed at night and your number is 92. When you wake up in the morning, it should be lower, 82. Because what's happening is if your body really did get deep restorative sleep, if your body really did build hair, bones, skin, nails, brain chemistry, it should have used up some of that sugar that was hanging out in the bloodstream. So many individuals that have a problem that end up being diabetic, these are some of the earliest signs we see is they actually have that inverted. They go to bed and they're at 93, they wake up and they're at 115. And I always say to them, where'd you get that sugar? I've heard of the, sugar plum fairies, but I've never heard of them actually feeding you in the middle of the night. So what we want to do is we want to find out is where did your body get that sugar? Your body did that by accessing sugar, glycogen in the muscle or in the liver. And it does that when it doesn't have the right, proper, correct micronutrients on board to do the job of rebuilding and repairing. If you don't rebuild and repair when you sleep, you perish. That's all there is to it. If you don't naturally have that circadian rhythm, if you don't naturally restore the micronutrients that are broken down in the heart muscle every night when you sleep, we won't have health. So the body actually elevates the blood sugar in the middle of the night in order to give you fuel. Remember, sugar gives you energy, cellular energy, to actually make life go on. But that is one of the first signs I see with my clients that they're starting to use sugars in a dysfunctional way. So I always encourage individuals, my young clients, my clients that just want to maintain the energy, whether they're 50, 60, 70, or 80, the energy that they had in their 20s, if that's your goal, we've got to be testing your blood sugar, and we've got to be doing it this way. The other times that I like to check the blood sugar is 1 hour to 2 hours post-eating. If you have a meal and you check your blood sugar and your blood sugar is still over 100, I say go to the second hour and check it again. As long as it's stable by the 2-hour mark, you're typically metabolizing your sugars fairly efficiently. Now, it's sometimes fun to play with this 1 hour, 2 hours after breakfast, 1 hour, 2 hours after lunch, and 1 hour, 2 hours after dinner. Because it can show you metabolically that there are, for each of us individually, certain times throughout the day that you're actually a sugar burner superstar. Meaning there are some people that use sugars really efficiently in the morning, but not so efficiently at night. There are some people that use sugars really efficiently in the middle of the day, but are terrible in the morning and the night. Those people have a hard time kind of coming into their physical bodies. Now, for my professional athletes, this is so important because we actually work with their trainers to design their fitness program for when they can best use sugar. Remember, the muscles where we store our sugar to maximize their workouts. So you might think that this is just something that you want to do, or you don't have diabetes, you don't need to worry about this. But what if you're an athlete? What if you want to look like an athlete? What if you want to feel like an athlete? This is a phenomenal way to use your sugars, to tell us what your body's doing to manifest cellular energy, physical energy, mental energy, structural energy. The other thing that I like to do is challenge the body. Now, I don't recommend this with my gestational diabetics or what we call our brittle diabetics, individuals that are having a difficult time regulating their blood sugars. With individuals that don't fall into that category, we do what I like to call the pancake and orange juice challenge test. And that's all in your workbook. You can work through that. Again, if you're gestational diabetic or a brittle diabetic, we have you not do this type of testing. It's just too much stress on your body. But what we do, and I've got the recipe in there, you have a nice big glass of orange juice, and this is the only time you're going to hear me to tell you to drink fruit juice, just so you know, only once. And you're going to have a nice big stack of pancakes, and we're going to consume that, and we're going to check our blood sugar at the 30-minute mark, at the 1 hour mark, at the 1.5 hour mark, and at the 2 hour mark. And if you have a body that's super efficient, right about at that 1 hour mark, your blood sugar is going to come coasting on down. Now, don't be surprised at the 30-minute mark if your blood sugar levels are like 200. It's not uncommon. But that's going to let us know how quickly or how slowly you convert sugar into energy. So all of this data is so important. These data points, this information that your body is telling us so that we can have true health. Remember, if we use energy to create every cell, our cardiovascular cells, our brain cells, all of our hormones, our bone density, our hair, skin, and nails, the ability to access that energy is vital for true health. But so many times we don't think about looking at our blood sugars until our health has gone completely awry, until we have been diagnosed with a chronic disease like diabetes, or until we're struggling with a metabolic imbalance like Syndrome X. But you can actually use your body, what you walk around with every day, and the food that you consume to collect data about yourself, about what's going on with you cellularly, metabolically, to actually use that data to create the health that you desire. Whether it's energy to get up in the morning and light your day on fire, whether it's energy to repair a fractured bone, to stabilize blood sugar, to stabilize cholesterol, whether it's hormones, whether it's to be a superstar at your next annual physical. It takes cellular energy to do all of that. And so that's why I ask that you guys look at your blood sugar from a metabolic process as opposed to something to fear, like some big scary disease like diabetes. Sugar can actually be a metabolic superhero if you know how to listen to your body and use that communication within your body to create the health you deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy. Please remember to share the amazing science and tools with someone you love. The more we know, the more we all lift our global health together. Visit www.hayliepomroy.com to get notes from today's show and to take your education and health to a new level of success and happiness.
Information on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for the advice provided by your physician or other healthcare professional or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging. You should not use the information on this podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professional before taking any medication or nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement, or adopting any treatment for a health problem. If you have or suspect that you have a medical problem, promptly contact your healthcare provider. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking professional advice because of something you've heard on this podcast. Information provided on this podcast and the use of any products or services purchased as a result of this podcast does not create any type of professional relationship between you and any of the associates affiliated with this podcast. Information and statement regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.